10 years ago, I was pretty solid in my child care business. I had a full house. My business was going really well. I went with the philosophy of make no waves and my boat won't get knocked over. Our neighborhood association was very strong on the east side of St. Paul. We were very well connected. And in 1999, the county was switching their payment system. With the Y2K, and about October, providers stopped getting paid. And providers who had a significant number of children on the CCAP, the subsidy program, by Christmas time, by Thanksgiving time, they were facing shut-off notices from the power company and couldn't pay their mortgage. Christmas was out of the question. They had no one to call. I was getting frantic calls as the neighborhood connection. Is anyone else going through this? What's going on? I can't get anyone to answer my call. And we got together with some other providers. We wrote a letter to the county commissioners. We knew what the problem was. We had no idea how to fix it. County commissioners weren't aware of the problem. The wrinkles got ironed out. People got paid. We wrote a letter to one of the commissioners. It was one of the only ones to answer us back at first. And we suggested that if we owed the county money, we would owe them interest. And because the county owed us money, by right, they should pay us interest. Now, this commissioner answered back, he's like, you're right. You're right. Let's do that. So here was our quiet little group that just stayed under the radar. And by working together, we made something happen for providers. And it was such a small, small piece. But it was an empowering piece. But after that experience, what we found was when people in other neighborhoods were having similar kinds of problems, we had to recreate the wheel over and over and over again. None of the neighborhoods had someone who wasn't working 10, 12 hours a day in their child care business. That's what child care providers do. When do we have time to do something, not only for ourselves, but then to help the next person? Just couldn't happen. And what would happen in each neighborhood once they got things going, even if they got a piece of something going, and here on the east side of St. Paul, when someone had a life event, someone had something that just took them away from their already overtaxed world, everything just stopped. Everything just stopped. There was no infrastructure, there was no support, there was nothing to sustain our hard work for the next provider, for our neighbor, for someone 5 years from now. And at one of these meetings that I talked about, a provider came in, and she was one of those providers who the majority of her clients were being paid through a subsidy program. She was distraught. She did not know what to do. Single mom, it was all of her income. And she came in, she sat down at the table. Within 5 minutes, she slammed her fist on the table. We need a union. That is the only way we're going to make any progress, is we need a union. And I thought, oh, you troublemaker, you. Shh. We can't do that. How can a union help us? I so distinctly remember that exchange and thinking, that's absurd. We don't have an employer. We don't have, the parents pay us. Who are we going to negotiate with? What kind of contract could we possibly get, and who would it be with? It was about 5 years later that I got a knock on the door. When someone came to tell me about what some providers in some other states were doing. organizing a union. It was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, right? It doesn't fit what I knew about a union. I come from everyone in my family's always been in a union. My uncles, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfathers, always. That this didn't fit. I could not imagine how this could help us solve and do the things that we wanted to do, that we could see needed to be done. A couple of meetings later, and informational meetings with some other providers and with some of the union organizers, and talking to some providers from other states, and it started to all click together. It doesn't matter on the details. What matters is that it can work. It's worked in the past. It's worked for other occupations. It's just a matter of figuring out where the pieces fit for us. What matters is people are going to join together, and we're going to figure out the solution, and it's going to stay there. It's going to stay there, and when this leader or that leader or the leader across town can't continue on taking everything on herself, the system is still there, and it's all ready for someone else to step in without having to drop everything and start all over again. So in Minnesota, there was this area in East St. Paul where we knew what we needed, and suddenly we had some of the tools to try to figure some of it out. Two providers in Pennsylvania had been building this model for family child care providers to have a union. And with child care providers together, CCPT has been exploding across the country. It's been just amazing to see how this has taken off in the past 10, 13 years. We've gone from not even believing it was possible, no one having a clue of how this could work, to 13, 15, 18 states having at some point in the organizing process in giving providers a union. There's been states that have just blazed trails and never turned back, like Oregon and New York. Oregon was just settled their third contract negotiated with the state. And in this contract, they're really celebrating their wins of securing $5.3 million to increase the child subsidy program and to fund an additional 500 families to receive reimbursement for their child care. That Provider Bill of Rights that Oregon first wrote all those years ago in their first contract set an example of providers being able to see what was possible. Almost every other state that negotiated a contract had a Provider Bill of Rights. It's called some different things in the different states. But this spoke so loudly to providers here who felt often that their basic dignity was violated and how they were treated. The providers in New York, boy, they worked a lot of years before they had some of the legal pieces in place. And they were still building and negotiating and working on changes that they could, much the same way that we were here in Minnesota. Their first contract secured service improvement grants for every single provider in the state. They didn't have to go through a competitive process. All they had to do was fill out the form. They secured investment from the state to support their health insurance. This was an issue with providers all across Minnesota. Endlessly, people had to leave this profession because they didn't have insurance, or their husband lost their job, or they lost their husband and now they don't have insurance. And they were either forced to leave for a while. When the first time we came around in 2005, oh, I don't need a union. I have everything I need. I'm all good. This can't help me. And we came back in 2011. I'm so glad you came back. I'm so glad people are still working on this, because now I get it. Now I understand. I don't have health insurance anymore. We had organizing campaign that started in 2005. By 2006, we had the majority in counties across the state. We knew that we couldn't have the recognition from a governor who at that time did not support the rights of workers the way that we have now. But we knew that on the county level, we had people, county commissioners, that supported the rights of people to join together as a union. And we worked with what we had. And what happened at that point was we had resolutions from the county boards in 3 counties that recognized our majority of providers wanting to join together as a union. We had executive boards. We acted like a union. We did things that unions did. We were a group of people who did the same kind of work, who had the same needs, and we joined together. In Ramsey County, where I am in St. Paul, we had really incredible support of our county board. And because of the strength of joining together with AFSCME and the support on a level like that, at the county level, we were able to create a program called the Provider Collaborative Project and join a figure. We identified what needed to happen for providers, where the holes were, and we joined together with county, which would have never happened before. We were able to meet with county department heads and find out what they needed and build a program that helped everyone involved. We brought county programs to providers, we brought providers to county programs, and most importantly, we identified family child care as the first point of contact with families all across the county. We demonstrated not only to departments in the county but also other nonprofits how vital family child care was in the family support network, and how we have this we have a unique relationship with these families that we work with every day, and we raise the level of support for families. We raise our professionalism of our field. We connected family child care with the county, and we connected the county with where they needed to be as well. And moving that program forward continued in a way that didn't matter if one person had the energy to keep it moving. It was a program that was built collaboratively and with by building relationships that would have otherwise not existed. When Governor Dayton was elected, we knew that he supported the rights of people who do work to join together as a union. And we were able to, at that point, now mobilize all of this ground foundation building that we had been doing. We were able to, by the support of AFSCME Council 5 in Minnesota, move forward legislation that gave us the right to collectively bargain with the state. And now we're at the point where we're embarking on the biggest labor movement in this history of the state in 40 years. What I learned once I started to get involved with the union was the difference between collective action and collective bargaining. In that we can do a lot collectively, moving together, like the story I told you about and writing to the commissioners. But that was asking nicely. That was pushing a little bit with the little bit of voice that we had, the little bit of power or knowledge that we had. It was just very different than what can be achieved through union collective bargaining, in that that's a legal, solid, that's a document that's been negotiated with equal representation across the membership. Now, our little group on the east side, really, we were speaking for all of Ramsey County, and we had no way to contact all of Ramsey County providers to see what they thought was appropriate or what their needs were. But as a union, every member's got a vote in the process and in the decision making and in the priorities. We have to join together in a way that everyone has a vote, everyone has a place, everyone has a seat at the table. Whether your family has been here since Fort Snelling was built, or whether your family just settled here last year. I think one of the most successful parts of Ramsey County building our union since 2005 was our joining together with Hmong speaking providers. We had leaders who, our meetings, our e-board meeting was held in 2 different languages. We'd talk this way and then we'd explain this, and whether it was a comment in Hmong or English, we took the time to make sure that every voice was heard and recognized and had the floor with respect for where they are coming from, what their issue was and what they needed. And we have been so fortunate to join together with some of the leaders who their first language is Somali, and they're speaking to other providers about the same issues, no matter where you were born. We're still doing the same job. And we all should have a part in this organization in solving our problems together. Women are the caregivers. We've been the teachers, we've been the nurses forever. And having a union lifted the profession of nurses, having a union lifted the profession for public school teachers. And I know that it's going to lift the profession. I've already seen how it's been lifting the profession for family child care providers. And you know, by having our business in our homes, that whole notion that caregivers do this out of the kindness of their heart is just compounded. This is my home. I'm taking children in as part of my family, and well, who charges to take care of family, right? And you certainly shouldn't, make a living off of it, maybe to cover your expenses. It's just, even if it's unsaid, it's definitely an overwhelming attitude that, it's because we love children, and we do love children, but we still deserve to make a living. And I want to do the best that I can with all the resources that I've had to learn how to do the job well. When I attended the National Convention of AFSCME in Los Angeles the year before, and I heard the Vice President talk about childcare and early childhood, it was a remarkable transformation in my mind of what having a union for childcare has done for the profession and for putting childcare on the front burner and making it a priority and putting it on the lips of the most powerful leaders. And I know that that would not have happened without joining together as a union, not only among with ourselves, among child care providers, but by joining other people who work for a living, because our issues are the same. Our needs are at its core the same. We have to be able to watch our own bottom line to make sure that we're providing the best possible care we can with the resources that we have. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I really found benefit in joining together with other providers as a union, and that we could solve some of the problems that we have in dealing with our business bottom line and being able to provide the highest care that we can and not overburden already burdened parents with charging them more and more and more just to do more. Our face-to-face every day is with the parent, but really who controls our livelihood is the state. The state can take it away at, you know, stroke of a pen, and we have very little recourse, very little say. The unchecked authority, there's no way for us to protect ourselves unless we, you know, sell a right arm to hire a lawyer. And even then, in the process of that, we're not making a living during that time because we might face other sanctions in the middle. And I can't imagine too many other professions that have no way to protect their livelihood. And who best to say how to keep children safe than the people that are actually managing that job? Can't imagine how I could possibly take care of children and watch what's happening down at the Capitol, let alone get down there or in any substantial way be heard on an issue that is going to affect my job and my livelihood and the work that I do for a living. But by joining together as a union, I can concentrate on taking care of the children and doing my job well, and join together with other people to have our priorities on the front burner of someone whose day job is to be down at the Capitol and read legislation and watch out for things that really matter to family child care. I'm really fortunate to live in the metro area. Training's pretty easy here. Online, face-to-face. I don't have to travel very far to get my training at night. I had no idea until I started talking to providers in other areas of the state, the struggles that people have in other areas of getting that same kind of training I just completely took for granted. When I traveled up to Baudette and met some providers up there, this woman, she talked about having to close down her childcare, spend a night in a hotel to get some training that she needed that was about to expire, and she had to get this training or she wasn't going to be able to continue with and be legally licensed. She had families depending on her. This is her career. She had, her business was very solid and the community depended on her to go to work. Cost is often prohibitive Many places in our state still struggle with internet access. Even if they have a computer in their home, they're just not able to access the kind of service that they need in order to take an online class. Having a union is going to give us the resources to fix the access problem, the affordability problems, and the quality problems of training for providers in rural Minnesota, providers in northern Minnesota. We've already started on figuring out ways to solve some of those problems. First of all was the affordability. There are 40,000 plus AFSCME members across Minnesota in every single corner. What better way to address the access problem in reaching people? You know, we have members that can train child care providers in first aid CPR, and we can utilize that connection by helping each other in that. We can provide training that's more affordable by bringing it right to our members, having members train other members. And what we saw at the legislature this year was having the political staff and department down there plugging away day after day after day, making sure that when it came to the governor's desk, that bill with more training for family child care providers, also on that bottom line had funds attached to it that would help supplement some of those training requirements. I didn't have time to do that. I didn't have the know-how to do that. But we had a political department that was right there looking out for our needs and making sure that was addressed. I have to say to child care providers who are watching this, to know that this is us. This is us. Every single one of us brings to the table a different strength. Each one of us comes to this table, and this organization, this group, this movement, at a different place. There's a job for every strength, and there's a starting point for everybody. First thing that providers can do is talk to another provider. Get that ball rolling. Move in your neighborhood. Talk to your parents that you see every single day and let them know a union would really be helpful to me. This profession utilizes our strengths and our individuality, and that's going to be a huge asset for us in building our union going forward. We need providers to all come together with whatever they have, wherever they are,